this is Cathynnan's Herbal ABC, and I'm Cathynan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do about, well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history. And it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Cathynan's Herbal ABC. After the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up. I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for a pregnant women to be using each herb. And apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. If that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. This will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. Basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many, 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 many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long, long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Cathynan's herbal ABCs basically going to look like. Hi, today's herb is E for Echinacea, also known as Echinacea purpura is its proper Latin name, known as purple cone flower, snake root and hedgehog. If you have any of the following conditions, you should consult a professional practitioner before using Echinacea. So this includes asthma, cancer, immune system problems such as autoimmune disorders such as multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, also HIV, tuberculosis, or after an organ transplant. So it's not that you can't use it, but you really should consult your doctor or another professional practitioner about your specific case if you have any of these disorders. Also, it's not a good idea to get into the habit of taking Echinacea every day. I know it's tempting. I would say this particularly about capsules or tincture. By the way, the capsules don't last very long. I would avoid capsules. better to take Echinacea in a tincture. And I grow it. And yet again this year I'm not ready to make a tincture from my plants, so I divided them last year. So I've had my plants 3 years, divided them last year, so I've got double the amount of plants, probably had about 12 plants. And then my buddleia became very dominant in the garden and also in my absence because I wasn't well, and found no trace of the Echinacea. The buddleia had totally overgrown. So I was glad that I divided them because I'd have nothing. But of course still I haven't got enough to make tincture. So what I do make, I'll hold it up for you. This is my tea that I use. Now, there's very little, I would say there's probably about 10 Echinacea leaves in this whole cup of mix of tea. I'll tell you what else is in there. So I've got chickweed, hibiscus, which is really good for you. And I will go into hibiscus's properties one day. It's not my H herb in this alphabet, but I use it largely for flavour, so that I can bung a fresh dandelion in there or whatever, and it's not going to taste too difficult first thing in the morning. So it's chickweed, hibiscus, lavender, marigold, echinacea and chamomile in this one. But it's really mainly just what I've got. But, you know, also I'm appreciative of the different properties that this little tea gives to me. It's largely a tonic and it changes obviously through the year and over the years. The next time I empty this one, I'll have to make it. I mean, I made the label for you, really. I wouldn't bother putting a label on it because I know what's in there is for me. You know, if I was making a tea for somebody else, it would be very different, of course. But I kind of remember what's in there, and it doesn't matter that much if I don't. Not putting any great amounts of anything that's going to do me any harm anyway. So this brings us into the preparation. All parts of the Echinacea plant can be used. It's quite miraculous. The whole plant can be harvested at once, or you can take the leaves and the flower petals and when you want to. You can make tea with fresh or dried Echinacea. But as I say, I would recommend that you mix it with other herbs such as mint or hibiscus for taste. The Echinacea is not the nicest taste really, especially not when you're not used to it. So you would take a tablespoon of the dried herb, or maybe 2 of the fresh herb, and infuse for 15 minutes. The tincture is simple enough to make. The same as all tinctures, just fill a watertight jar half full of the whole plant, and then fill it with at least 40% alcohol. I use vodka, but as we've spoken about before, do beware that the vodka is usually only 37.5% rather than 40% now, which just means leave it in a bit longer. It should be fine. I mean, tell me, anybody, if you've had any experiences to the contrary, but I would guess the 37.5 is going to be fine. Just to leave it that little bit longer so that, you know, the harder stuff like roots get a chance to give up their properties to the vodka. So, and I'll take 12 drops, but only when I feel a cold coming on or tummy bug, or occasionally when I'm somewhere that I think might be a bit dodgy, you know, notably, I took my Echinacea to Ethiopia with me, and it made me feel quite safe that I'd got that to fall back on if I'd thought I might have drunk some dodgy. The beer was lovely, but where they'd watered it down, of course the water's a little bit dodgy. It did turn my tummy a bit. But I don't think that was, it might have been something that Echinacea could fix. So I took some just in case. So I used my Echinacea like that. Yeah. So yeah, and it's recommended that you take Echinacea for the duration of your illness, plus 24 hours. So I just had quite a nasty cold. Not sure. It was the volcanic gas from Iceland, sulfur dioxide, I think, and my sore throat and a few other symptoms appeared on the same day as I heard about the volcano. So I kind of was tempted to associate the two. I've also given up smoking tobacco, and so this has been my first cough that hasn't been a smoker's cough as such. So I was quite generous with the Echinacea as soon as I discovered it, and as prescribed, I took it all the time that the cough and the cold symptoms were bothering me, and then an extra day just to be sure. General rule is to use the aerial parts of the plant fresh and the root dry, to make, so you could make the tincture that we spoke about, and also you could make I've forgotten the word for it, not an infusion, the tea, the other one that takes longer, where, you could boil the roots up in the pan and then simmer them for 15 minutes. And the word will come to me. But yeah, that's basically how you would use the plant. I'm not going to take long telling you about the actions of Echinacea, but don't misconstrue that to any lack of significance. It's my absolute favourite herb to use for myself and my family. I've got one daughter who swears blind that I would use Echinacea on her if she broke a leg, and I probably would at some point if I thought infection might be coming along. So Echinacea is one of the most important herbs to help your immune system ward off disease. It's useful against toothache, rabies, snake bite, and septic skin conditions and infections. It is an immune stimulant. It's anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, anti-detoxifying. It increases sweating, which allows the toxins to leave your body, and heals wounds. It will help against allergies. It may prevent pneumonia and respiratory problems, colds, flu, etc. It kills viruses. Echinacea is antiseptic, antifungal, anti-herpes, anti-histamic, and antimicrobial. You can add the tincture to mouthwash for mouth problems or for respiratory problems. And you can put a few drops of the tincture on a burn. Echinacea helps to heal connective injuries, so that's tissues and muscles. Echinacea may also be useful with problems of the ears, mastitis and nipple fissures. Echinacea also produces saliva, which helps clean the mouth. So I have included, as well as the couple of watercolour paintings that I've done of Echinacea, and the watercolour painting on the Recognise and Grow page. I've also included a picture of my own Echinacea, humble though it was this year, as I said about the problem with the buddleia. But yeah, so I've grown Echinacea for years, and it's the first time I've ever had a problem with Echinacea, and it was because of this buddleia. I'm cursing the poor buddleia. Buddleia was so popular in the 80s, and it is a butterfly tree, and it is lovely, but they tend to take over. And I made the mistake of cutting one down, or cutting one to soil level, and it popped up all over the garden. So I'm a little bit, and I've just had to cut this second one down. So if anybody knows any great ways of stopping the buddleia takeover of our garden, I'd be really grateful. I'm experimenting now with black plastic, because I've been told that's a good way. And I hate to kill a plant, but really it's too much. There's hardly any garden left by the time the buddleia has done its thing. Okay, so Echinacea is an erect, clump-forming and rhizomatous plant. And that just means it's got, as well as its main roots, it's got smaller horizontal rhizomes, these little roots that go horizontally. It's perennial, so it comes back every year. It has leaves which are pinnate, and that means on either side of the stem and usually opposite each other, and lobed. Echinacea plants are beautiful, solitary, long-stalked daisies in appearance with prominent cone-shaped discs. So it's like a big daisy with a disc in the middle, and often drooping ray florets. And the centre is like a hedgehog, hence one of the names is hedgehog. The cone shape is lots of little spikes, just like a hedgehog, really. Yeah, the leaves are coarsely hairy and ovate, in other words, egg-shaped, and lance-shaped. So they kind of, they get longer, they elongate. It's deciduous, and the growing zone is H5, which just means that it's quite hardy even in severe winters throughout the UK, except for in extremely exposed locations in central and northern areas. The precious Echinacea grows well in full sun or part shade, and thrives in well-drained loam, sand or chalk soil. It likes to be south or west facing, and don't plant them where the soil is too dry. But otherwise they're easy. They are so easy. I'm no great shakes as a gardener. I'm a try-hard. I'm not naturally green-fingered. I try, and Echinacea has really rewarded my efforts. And I've even grown it once from seed by putting the seed in tissue, and putting the tissue in the airing cupboard to keep it warm and keeping it all moist until until the little plants germinate, and then into soil on the windowsill, and then into the garden. Yeah, so not difficult. You can propagate Echinacea by division, as I said, in the spring or in the autumn. I don't think I'm going to this year because, as I said, my plants that I've got, they're there, but they didn't do massively well this year, and I don't want to risk dividing them and losing them. I might even buy some more in. I want to buy the tincture because I spend more on Echinacea tincture than I do on anything because it's so valuable, and I tend to buy a bottle and then I'll give it to my grandson because he's got a cold, and hopefully he uses it after he disappears from my eyesight, but you never know with 18-year-olds. So yeah, or buy the root cuttings in late autumn, which I haven't done a root cutting. I've just done the division and the seeds. So Echinacea grows up to 1.5 metres, and it's great in a border. It's so pretty. Harvest it better than pretty. It's majestic. It's so tall and strong looking. Harvest the roots for medicinal use in autumn or winter, and then you can store them until they're dry. And that's it. And we'll come back and look at Echinacea's part in permaculture. Okay. As a permaculture plant, Echinacea has a few valuable properties. Firstly, it attracts butterflies, especially if you leave the seed heads in the autumn. It also attracts other beneficial insects, including parasitic wasps and bees, which control populations of other insects which would damage your other plants. Echinacea is a drought-tolerant pioneer species, so it can be used to improve bare earth. Also, Echinacea's deep taproot prevents soil erosion. It does this by preventing water running downhill by sequestering it in its roots until the spring. It's also a good idea to leave Echinacea's seed heads for the birds. So now I'm going to talk about the phytochemicals. The main active ingredients in Echinacea are citric acid, caffeic acid, antioxidants, alkaloids, phenolic acids, rosmarinic acid, and polyacetylenes. So citric or citric acid is an immunostimulant. So remember we said about, and for me that's one of Echinacea's most important properties, that and the antibiotic property. It's how I started using Echinacea. It meant I didn't have to go and get antibiotics from a doctor, and we've been pretty antibiotic free, my family and myself, for years now. As I say, it's one of the herbs that I use mostly. It promotes neuroprotection, which slows down disease progression and secondary injuries by stopping or slowing the loss of neurons. Citric acid is antivirus, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. It also acts against obesity. Caffeic acid boosts athletic performance, prevents fatigue from exercise and helps weight loss. It is anti-cancer and protects against HIV, AIDS, herpes and other conditions, and it is anti-inflammatory. Antioxidants reduce risk of many diseases, including heart disease and some cancers. They remove free radicals and reduce damage by oxidation. Alkaloids are analgesic, so a mild painkiller. They're anti-inflammatory and immunomodulators, means they modify the immune system to help the body resist disease or illness. Phenolic acids improve general health. They are antioxidant again and anti-inflammatory again, and help prevent cardiovascular disease and some cancers. They protect against oxidative damage, and they are antibacterial and promote immunity. They also protect the skin from radiation. Rosmarinic acid is anti-cancer. It is anti-angiogenic, which means that they can starve a tumour of its blood supply by blocking the formation of new blood vessels. This is rosmarinic acid, which is also obviously in rosemary. This will prevent or slow the growth of cancer. It's also antioxidant and anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial. It promotes growth, including hair growth, and this is also similar to rosemary. So supports hair growth and supports brain health. And rosemary also improves focus, that sort of thing, and lowers blood sugar. Polyacetylines are antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory, and can inhibit platelet function and adhesion, which prevents blood clotting or coronary syndromes or thrombosis. Okay, we're going to go on next to the herbal law. So the herbal law and magic of Echinacea is associated with strength and crone magic. So it's something I should know about. I'm in crone mode now. The crone, since the 14th century, has been known as an old, ugly and unpleasant old woman. The origin of the word may have been carogne, literally insult, which in turn came from charogne, unpleasant woman, and that's from Old French. However, recent attitudes have changed, thank goodness, and they don't burn us anymore. And now the crone is revered more in the UK, as she has always been in many other cultures, as a wise woman. It's also said that the word crone comes from the corona, the circle of light surrounding the body of someone who is clear and full of love. So like a halo or an aura almost. This concept, I will also say the word crone could also come from Chronos, which means time, just as a description of an old woman, which personally I would never be offended by. I'm quite honoured to be an old woman in this world. So this concept is expanded by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, her name is. This picture of a woman full of light and wisdom and love. So that the name is Clarissa Pinkola Estes, if you want to look her up. Echinacea is also concerned with power, healing and abundance. Echinacea is feminine, but is ruled both by Venus and Mars. So it's almost like androgynous, really. Both feminine and masculine power to an extent. It is associated with the element of earth, and Echinacea can be used in charm pouches or as incense. It has been used in spells as a symbolic substitute for blood. Maybe someone can tell me particularly why Echinacea would be a good substitute for blood. I don't know. The roots and the seeds especially are said to multiply the power of spells, so it's giving strength, which I totally can understand. One of the alternative names for Echinacea is snake root, and you can make serpent oil by steeping the roots in olive oil over a very low heat for 15 to 20 minutes. This can then be used to anoint the corners, doors and windows of your home. Excuse me. This is a marshmallow cough now. This is post-tobacco. And it's the end of this, maybe, the gas that came over from Iceland volcano. It's not a smoker's cough anymore. So outside you can plant Echinacea to attract the powerful energy of bees and butterflies. You can leave an offering of Echinacea on a fallen tree or near a riverbank to meditate on the spirits of the forest and to ask for inner peace. That's nice. If you're struggling with overspending or debt, you can place a vase of Echinacea on an altar or a special place in your home. You can put pennies in the vase to help you open up to a more thoughtful approach to financial affairs. And maybe I should take my own advice and to ask for guidance. The seeds can be used for fertility spells, or a bag of dried Echinacea over the bed is supposed to work, or fresh flowers in your bath. Before using tarot or other divination, you can improve your clairvoyance by lying on a mat and placing a fresh flower over your third eye. Then close your eyes and imagine your increased psychic awareness. I might give that a little try. Won't be able to try it before this tarot reading though, as I have no Echinacea flowers with me. Okay. Hi. So actually before the herbal, I do the tarot, I'm just going to read you a little bit from this precious book called The New Holistic Herbal, and it's by David Hoffman. It's quite an old book. I had this book a good 20 years ago. Very nice. And I just want to read you what he says about Echinacea. So the Echinacea I was talking about was, I mean, this Echinacea as well. But this particular Echinacea is called Augustifolia. So if anybody can tell me, perhaps if they have it looks like they have some different properties. I'll go into that. But if one is more efficacious than the other, I'd be really glad to know. But anyway, the Echinacea he's talking about, Echinacea augustifolia, the part used is the coneflower, and the collection, the roots should be unearthed in the autumn, as we said. It is suggested that the fresh extract is more effective than the dried root. So the last information we were given, and people will differ. And this is the thing, if you cross-reference, if you look at one guy and what they say, and this woman says that about the other thing, it's really good. You won't find anybody outright disagreeing with each other. Just different emphasis given to different, it might be because of different strains that they're used to, or slightly different experiences, slightly different scientific knowledge, so it's worth reading a few different versions of what you're looking at. So yeah, so this guy's take on Echinacea is really nice. So the constituents he's listed are the volatile oil, which actually I hadn't mentioned, or the glycoside. We've got echinacea, and the phenolics, which I did mention. he says about the actions, they're antimicrobial and alterative. We didn't mention alterative, but whenever you see alterative, it's really helpful when you're trying to cope with new circumstances or new things going on with your body. An alterative will alter its no, not its properties, but it's the way it affects you accordingly. So Echinacea is the prime remedy to help the body rid itself of microbial infections. It is effective against both bacterial and viral attacks. It may be used in conditions such as boils, septicemia, and other infections of that sort. In conjunction with other herbs, it may be used for any infection anywhere in the body. Can you start to see how really precious this herb is, and why I use so much of it, and why I need to make my own tincture? For example, in combination with yarrow or bearberry, it will effectively stop cystitis. It's especially useful for infections of the upper respiratory tract, which we did mention, the respiratory system. So you've got laryngitis, tonsillitis, and for catarrhal conditions. So it was great on my sore throat. I mean, that particular symptom went immediately, and that's what I love about Echinacea. The minute I noticed a sore throat, which was really early in the morning, as soon as I woke up really early in the morning, and just reached for my Echinacea, which is never far away from me. Had a couple of swigs. I'm very inured to it. I don't put it in water. I mean, the directions say put it in water, but I'm quite good at just slugging it, and it works for me. I used to be very boozy, so I quite like the excuse to have a little, a wee dram, if you like. But yeah, immediately, that part of the symptoms of whatever it was that attacked me just disappeared, and I was left with, you know, the snotty nose and the cough and everything, but that particular quite painful sore throat completely disappeared straight away. So I knew that the Echinacea was doing its stuff. So yes, laryngitis, tonsillitis, catarrhal conditions of the nose and sinus. In general, it may be used widely and safely. The tincture or decoction, which is that was the word I was searching for. So the decoction, when you boil the roots and then simmer them for 15 minutes, rather than making a tea, which is an infusion where you steep the herb in boiled water. This is a concoction, a decoction, not a concoction. So the tincture or decoction may be used as a mouthwash in the treatment of pyorrhea and gingivitis. May be used as, we did speak about gum, mouth problems. Echinacea is very helpful. May be used as an external lotion to help septic sores and cuts. Combinations of this useful herb may be combined with many different plants. Preparation and dosage they talk about. So the decoction, 1 to 2 teaspoonfuls of the root in 1 cup of water, and bring it slowly to the boil. Let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. This should be drunk 3 times a day. And then the tincture, they're saying take 1 to 4 ml of the tincture 3 times a day. Well, I tend to follow the directions on the bottle that I've been buying for however many years, and take the 12 drops. But as I said, I just neck them. It's fine. And I've grown to like the taste of something that I know is going to be doing me so much good. So yeah, it's great. So now we will go to the tarot. That was quick bonus for all of those of you who've hung on this long. Okay, we'll go to the tarot now. Okay, so once again, this precious little book. try and get it into shot. How do I do that? Here we go. I've shown you before Adriana Ayalis and the artwork by Josephine Clerks. The Herbal Astrology Pocket Oracle Guidebook. Not only are the paintings beautiful, but the descriptions are amazing. So this is Echinacea, and they're calling Echinacea Destiny. And it's Jupiter ruled. Now, we've already seen that people regard Echinacea as Mars and Venus ruled, giving it that androgynous quality. But here is maybe the divinity, really, Jupiter ruled. And they've got Pluto here as well, so maybe they'll tell us more about that. And this snake eating its own tail, symbolic of a destiny. And you've got the sun and the moon there, and rain, and the roots. Seem to be significant. Beautiful paintings, and the writing's beautiful too. So I'm doing a lot of reading about Echinacea, but I kind of want to. I'm so keen for you to understand quite how significant this herb is, and how easy it is to have it in your life. You don't have to spend so much on the tincture. I mean, really and truly, it's only since I've got older that I get through quite so much. When I was younger, like a £12 bottle would last me all year. And I would be wary of where you're getting it from. Go to a reputable health food shop, or study it certainly before you buy to get the best deal. And I'm probably a bit slow off the mark with that. I mean, I'm using the same one by Fogel that I've always used, and highly recommend it. But I'm very suspicious of a lot of things these days, and I'm not entirely sure whether I trust that the Echinacea I'm getting over the internet has been watered down, because I seem to be getting through it at quite a rate. Either that, or I've just got used to it and I'm drinking more. You know, as I said, I do tend to just chug it, really. Okay, so this lovely book that goes with this card has just answered one of my questions for me, really. So it's Echinacea, and it's about destiny. And they've listed Echinacea augustifolia, the same as the David Hoffman book listed, the Holistic Herbal. And Echinacea purpurea, which is the name that I'd learned, the species, you know, the kind of Echinacea that I'd learned. And also a third one, Echinacea pallida. But again, you know, if anybody knows more about the distinction between these, I'd be really interested. This book does deal in reverses, but I mean, I took this card out to show you, so it's not going to be relevant today. But I'll read both because it's both are important, you know. Part of the same thing. So upright, it would be the wheel of change, life cycles, destiny, bigger vision, fortune, and fate. So fate, very Plutonian, and fortune, very Jupiterian qualities. Reversed, you've got karma, again very Plutonian. Clinging to control is Plutonian. Unwelcome change. Cycles of suffering, and a change is due. Yeah, and they have both rulers, Jupiter and Pluto, whereas before we were talking about Mars and Venus. And certainly Pluto and Mars are kind of different vibrations of the same quality, which is basically power. And Jupiter and Venus are both benefic planets, about abundance and different forms of love, really. So it all makes beautiful sense. So they're saying in this book, many Native American people consider Echinacea to be a protective spirit medicine, and some of the root is often included in medicine pouches worn around the hip or the neck. The Navajo consider Echinacea to be a life medicine, one of the 40 ceremonial plants used for specific healing rituals. On the Great Plains, Echinacea washes and poultices are favoured to dress wounds, staunch infections, and provide pain relief for sore or torn muscles. And we heard about the muscles, how helpful they are to muscles, as well as tissues. And we spoke about poultices, I think when we were talking about dandelions. So yeah, you can make a poultice of Echinacea, it'd be really good. Especially if you thought the wound might be infected. A poultice of the root would be lovely, so that's basically heating up the root in boiling in water, and then cutting it and then boiling it in water, and then using it between two pieces of bandage, I would use, or lint, so that the warmth goes down into your body. And another thing I've done with comfrey before is I've used those heat pads you can get, and put the comfrey in between the heat pad and my skin, and I really benefited from that. I'd broken a rib, and very little doctors can do, and I went from being in real pain on the sofa and being scared to move, and within a couple of days I was up and moving about and feeling quite confident that nothing was going to go horribly wrong anymore. So can be quite, that's comfrey. But yeah, poultices certainly are very helpful, especially with wounds and in places where you need topical help. Okay, and the washes, of course, Echinacea would be great for, and also to ward off, as we said when we were talking about it, to ward off septicemia. So the seeds and the roots of the variety known as pale purple cornflower, that's the purpura, were popularly used in a decoction to cure colds and flus, reduce fevers, soothe burns and boils, and treat arthritis and rheumatism. Many Native American tribes also called it snake root, as we've seen, as it was used as an antivenom for rattlesnake bites. In sweat lodge ceremonies, the roots were chewed to assist in purification and adaptation and to ease pain. The plant was strewn across hot coals to add to the steam and was said to help participants withstand the heat. the Omaha Native American tribe would coat their hands in macerated echinacea root so that they could take hot food out of boiling pots without being burned by the heat. To this day, echinacea is used prominently worldwide and proven effective in fighting infections and combating colds, flu, and upper respiratory infections. Echinacea primarily tackles the liver, the blood, and stimulation of the immune system, all of which falls under Jupiter's rulership. Jupiter herbs like Echinacea have a powerful ability to prevent the damaging effects of stress on the organs, enabling deep protection on a multi-organ level. I'm going to stop here and come back. Okay, so we're coming now to the second card, Temperance, which I might have said already is also Jupiter ruled. So it's about Sagittarius. It's also about tempering things. And you know when they were talking about the other card, about making things so that they could pick up boiling hot pots. The heat was tempered. So it's that version of temperance as well. So it says here about temperance and echinacea and their association, that echinacea is a herb of purification that stimulates the body's innate defences. This is the Herbal tarot that I always use. I haven't actually got the box with me, but yeah, the Herbal tarot. It's in all of my videos so far, so yeah, so it tempers heat, and as a tonic it regulates all inflammatory processes, as we saw when we talked about the actions. This herbal antibiotic can be used every 2 hours for any infected, inflamed condition. And it's about also symbolically, it's about achieving strength through purity. Beauty emanates from one who is pure in heart. And it's about protecting yourself from heated and angry situations. And it's about strengthening yourself against harmful outside influences, fortification, testing oneself, and strength gained from challenges. And we're going to use the Wild Unknown Tarot. I'll just get it so you can see it. By Kim Krantz. I just have to... The Wild Unknown Tarot Guidebook. And again, we've used these in several of the videos. So I have, as always, shuffled them beforehand, but I'll just give them a quick shuffle to freshen up the energy. And we're asking about Echinacea as destiny and Echinacea also as temperance. I'll just put them in 3 piles here. And then pick them up with my left hand. I'm not sure about what this ritual means. To look it up one day. But it's just a nice way to focus us in on the cards, as is the knocking. And I'll shuffle now until something wants to pop out and tell me about Echinacea. We've got one. We've got the Son of Pentacles. So, and in this pack, of course, he's a deer. I'm going to move these so that we can see the new cards clearly. So he's a deer, and the Son of Pentacles is quite a slow mover, quite a trusty, usually a young person, but definitely a slow, practical, trustworthy kind of guy. And it's that energy, whether it's talking about a person or not, it's still that energy. We'll read the cards afterwards. We'll get if there's any more cards that want to pop out to tell us more, a little bit more about Echinacea. I've got the Three of Pentacles. So lots of pentacles here. Quite down to earth. Not really the Jupiter, Mars and Pluto influences that we're looking for, but maybe that's what it needs. It needs to be brought down to earth, all this huge energy. Mars and Pluto are massive, powerful energies, and Jupiter is very expansive. The Son of Pentacles is more like Pentacles is more like a Saturn feeling, very practical and down to earth. But we'll see what the book tells us, and we'll do it in this. That's the order they came out is quite often important, so we'll do them in the right order. So this beautiful deck of cards by Kim Krantz. So yeah, the Son of Pentacles is loyal, quiet and dedicated. The good side of the Son of Pentacles is that he's loyal and determined. He's inventive and can be trusted wholeheartedly. But sometimes this figure becomes stubborn and persistent to a fault. This, combined with his quiet nature, results in his being hard to get to know and socially awkward at times. He commonly has only one or two close friends rather than many. Okay. And the second is the Three of Pentacles. So again, always about some sort of material thing with pentacles. They're coins after all. So it's about money, and it's also about practical matters. And the Three of Pentacles is about teamwork and determination and focus. I'll just put it more into view for you, sorry. There you go. It says the task ahead is a momentous one, usually related to your job or career. The Three of Pentacles suggests you must focus all of your efforts, discipline, strategy and hard work. Discipline, strategy and hard work are needed now more than ever. If you become weary or overwhelmed, rely on those around you. This is a card of teamwork, so you may need the strength of others to conquer the mountain. Okay. So not really sure what that's got to do with Echinacea. I mean, temperance is this feeling of patience and quietness. So I suppose that that would affect it. I mean, I've tried really hard to make this about the Echinacea and not about me, and I've tried to clear the energy before I started, so that it's about, it might be talking to me personally, in which case the experiment isn't yielding the desired quite. But anyway, we'll see. We're going to go now to this rather nice. I've lost the box to this, but it's very nice. I've just got to get them so you can see them. So these are, again, it doesn't matter which way up they are, but you can see one, the animals. So the dolphin is about play and advises you to swim in the happy joy of living. Inhale confidence and exhale faith. That's not what we've got though. I'm going to give them a quick shuffle and see what comes up. Meanwhile, I'll try and think more about this Son of Pentacles and the Three of Pentacles and how they relate to Echinacea. I mean, Echinacea, maybe that fortification, you know, that strength that Echinacea gives you to quietly plod on when people are falling around you. very calm kind of energy we've got here with these all these pentacles. Nothing flashy, trustworthy. Perhaps it's because Echinacea is such a trustworthy remedy. I'm a little bit besotted with its properties. It's served me well for many, many years. Okay, we do the usual split then. I'm going to have to be quick because I don't want to go into overtime and then it doesn't want to send. So we'll just get one. If they want to give us one for Echinacea. I think already it's going to be too long again. Oh, I've got two come out. So we've got the Ram, perseverance. You have many gifts, no problem can withstand the power of your mind. With patience you can reach your mountain top. Never give up and good luck will follow. He goes quite nicely with the Son of Pentacles, I think. And we've got the Cat, independent. You're a natural healer. Your intuition is strong. You don't have to go with the crowd. Life supports you in every way. So that's independence. And that's our read for Echinacea. Next time it's going to be F for Fennel next week.